You know, one thing that's always going to kind of be a spoiler with these reviews going forward is whether or not I'm using the chroma card or if I actually have the vinyl. I mean, if I have the vinyl, that's probably a good sign that I really liked this record. And, hey, what's up? My Photoshop skills aren't this good. Heyo people, I'm Crash Thompson, and welcome to this review of the latest from Paramore, This Is Why. It has been a while since we've heard from Paramore, haven't we? And the last time we heard from them, they weren't exactly in the
Gonna make you wonder why you even try. Hard times. Gonna take you down and laugh for you to cry.
best spirits. Don't get me wrong, killer-ass album After Laughter back in 2017, but woo! But Paramore is back, they're touring, they're kicking ass out there, and they have returned with, well, definitely something different. But the super short version, this record here, it's just post-punky as hell. Honest to God, this is just straight up a post-punk record from skin to core. Like, and this is that later post-2010s post-punk as well. Think stuff like Foals or like later Interpol or even Bloc Party. Honest to God, this record, again, the super short version, this is the record I've been begging Bloc Party to make for like the last decade or so, but they just can't get it right. Thankfully, this one, absolutely does get it right. This thing is fantastic. The composition and overall raw instrumentation is absolutely great. Zach Farrow really stepped up his percussion work big time to help meet that new post-punky aesthetic. His beats are a lot faster, a lot more complex. Not that his beats were ever super-duper simple, but he really stepped up his game on this. The percussion absolutely floors, particularly on like the bouncier, dancier tracks, like the title track and C'est Comme Ça. Am I saying that right? Be sure to complain real loud in the comments if I'm not. And Taylor York brought a lot to the table with his guitar arrangements as well. They're all very well balanced. It's that perfect mix of like sparse but energetic and just blissful in all the right places. Like the slow moments have those clean, very present melodies, but the bouncier stuff, you know, has a lot of like very fast picking, a lot of emphasis on like solo notes and like very sort of erratic chord work. It, again, exactly what you want in post-punk, and he absolutely captured it all around. Great job. And of course we have Hayley Williams, who
Say the coast is clear, but you won't catch me out. Oh, why?
is Hayley fucking Williams. We got nothing to worry about on that front. Sonically, the album's just a lot of fun. There's not too much more to say about it in that regard. I think a lot of us were thrown off, again, by This Is Why and the news. You know, the first few singles of this record were just such a departure. We were not expecting Paramore to go this art rocky, you know what I mean? Instrumentally, at least from a raw composition standpoint, the album is great. I also really liked this album lyrically, though again, it's kind of easy to tell Paramore is still in kind of a
This is why I don't leave the house.
place. I mean, everyone complained about this cover, but you read the lyric sheet to this thing, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's honestly still a bit of frustration left over from After Laughter. On tracks like C'est Comme Ça, Big Man, Little Dignity, and You First, they also deal with a lot of those negative emotions. But whereas that album felt like it was struggling and kind of suffocating under all of the feelings, this one is much angrier. This one has a lot more punch back to it. It's like, oh yeah, this sucks, but like, come on, you want to fight? You want to fucking go, motherfucker? I am Hayley goddamn Williams. I lived through 6 fucking Warped Tours. Your ass is me. But like, yeah, that is absolutely a mood though, isn't it? Like, this is absolutely a post-pandemic record. Those feelings of paranoia and distrust and uneasiness with the entire goddamn world that everyone is feeling right now. Again, songs like the title track and The News all really cover those uneasy feelings of just the world breathing down your neck that we all feel all the time, thanks to the rigorous relentlessness of the news cycle and what social media has kind of devolved into. If nothing else, it just acknowledges how fucking tiring it is to have someone up your ass 24 hours a day, 7 days a week about some dumb shit or some fucking thing. It's like, homie, can I finish breakfast first? Please. But it all comes from a very human, a very level-headed kind of understanding of what's going on in the world right now. I mean, Haley's not out here ranting about cancel culture. I'm owed forgiveness, actually. When Haley sings about the heaviness of human existence and how world-weary she feels, it honestly feels like it's coming from a very genuine place. Again, especially if you've been keeping tabs on the poor girl, like, damn, she been through it and then some. But again, it feels very therapeutic for her. It's very cathartic almost. Honestly, one track in particular I really enjoyed was the slow cut Liar. It's a song about, again, being really defensive and guarded with your heart, but ultimately coming to the conclusion that you gotta let some of that go and you gotta allow yourself to be vulnerable. You gotta let yourself love and be loved, or else life is just not really worth living, and you miss out on way too much to stay so guarded all the time. And you know what this song is, honestly? This track here is basically the grown-up, mature version of The Only Exception. And I know Hayley Williams really has issues with that song, especially given how that story turned out. Again, goddamn. But again, I'm happy to see that she's finally nailed that particular concept from that song in a much better way. Honestly, I don't have too much to complain about here. This is a very solid record and a very interesting and wonderful direction for them to go in. That having been said, no, it isn't perfect. While I enjoyed this album compositionally, if there is one major flaw this thing has, it's in the production. Again, with this record going in such a post-punky direction, I can understand why they'd want to play things a little more subdued than they usually do, but I can't help but feel like in places the mix is a little too subdued. Like moments, particularly in like choruses or in those big punchier moments in the verses, like, man, they just need some punch, they need some slap, they need certain guitar parts brought forward, or like the bass to really resonate, and like they just often don't. Again, the mix feels a little muddled and mushy. They promoted a mixer that they've been working with for the past few years to handle production on this work, and to his credit, he does have some respectable production degrees under his belt already. He produced the last Bad Religion album, Best Coast's last record, he's done work for Teenage Wrist. The guy isn't totally unqualified, but most of his production credits come in mixing or in less of a leadership role. This is definitely the biggest notable project he's been head of, and again, he didn't do a terrible job. Again, the record does hit most of those right moments, but in those moments where it just needs just a little bit more kick-ass, they're just not really there. He fails to punctuate this album at its highest moments. Overall, he still does fine, but man, he really should have taken more risks. Another thing I could possibly point to in being, again, a small flaw, but something that I did find myself kind of musing on as I listened to it. This record is their kind of post-punk shift. They definitely go in that direction, and they do a damn good job of it. I kind of wish they had just had more courage and just leaned harder into it. I feel like the best tracks on this album are the songs like C'est Comme Ça, Figure 8, or the magnificent closer Thick Skull, where they take that post-punk direction and just really lean hard into it. Like, particularly Hayley's almost spoken word vocals on C'est Comme Ça. I love that. She is so good at that, and I would have loved to have seen them take more bold and crazy risks. You know, if you're gonna go post-punk, go whole post-punk. You could have done a whole record of songs like that, and people would have been like, the fuck? But even with all that, these flaws aren't really that big of a deal. It's still a bold record. It's still a fantastic album. Still one of the better releases of 2023, in my opinion. I'd say its biggest fault is that, man, this is easily a 9 out of 10 record that is kind of suffocating under a 7 out of 10 mix. I don't think it'll absolutely murder the appeal for anyone, but it's, you know, it's one of those things, if you got the ear for it, you're like, oh, damn it, this could have been better. Despite all that, I still feel like they accomplished the mission they set out on in releasing this record. This is basically them signaling a gigantic shift and showing us Paramore version 3. You know, this is them expanding, this is them breaching out into new arenas, new sounds, new sonic landscapes, and you know what? They are pretty damn good for it, and if they choose to build off of this sound, again, I could easily see them doing well. I've given this album about 3 listens now, and I feel more than comfortable giving this like a strong 8 to a light 9. Like, y'all, this is definitely a candidate for best of 2023. I know it's still really early in the year, but man, this record has already impressed me a lot, and I'm really only going to get more and more mileage out of this the more I listen to it. Definitely worth your time. If you were worried about this record for whatever reason, don't. It's great. Paramore still kicks ass. And that's the review. Have you heard this album yet? What did you think? Are you liking the new direction, or are you kinda not feeling it as much as a lot of folks are right now? Let me know in the comments. I do have a few more album reviews I want to tackle in February, but I am also working on longer form videos. You'll hear more about those as the month progresses on. I'd love to get one out before the end of February, but it might go into March. I don't know, I'm working on more of my own schedule these days, so I'll let you know. Outside of that, thanks again for watching. My name is Crash Thompson, and I will see ya when I see ya.